predicting every UFC champion in 2026. For 2025, these were my predicted champions. I went 2 for 8, which is really not good. But if we look at it, I feel like the Van fight was kind of a fluke. I don't think anyone picked Peter Yan to become champion. And the Ilya and Islam picks, I did get right, but I didn't know that they would move up, vacate their belt. So I feel like when all things are considered, it's not that bad of a list. But hopefully this year we'll have a lot less champions vacating their title, moving up, and guys will just stay in their division and defend their titles. But let's start with Flyweight. Now 125 is kind of in a weird spot because we don't know when Pantoja is going to come back, when he's going to be fully recovered. We don't know if there's going to be a fight in between his recovery, if Van is going to defend his belt. We don't know who he's going to defend against, whether it's Manel Kape or Tyra. But I do think that there will be another fight before Pantoja comes back, just because his injury was so bad and Van is a very active fighter, so I could see him wanting another fight. And I do think they're going to choose Tyra for the next title. Manel Kape, I just feel like the UFC doesn't love him because he's always pulling out of fights. They want a Japanese champion, so I feel like they're going to give the title shot to Tyra. And in this fight, I do think Tyra beats Van. I think he's one of the best flyweights in the world, and I think it's going to be Tyra versus Pantoja, maybe late summer, early fall, somewhere around there. I think Manel Kape will have to fight at least one more time before getting another title shot, probably against Kyoji or someone like that. And for Pantoja versus Tyra, I actually do think Pantoja would beat Tyra. I know Tyra has improved, and I think Tyra could take him down earlier in the fight because of the size difference. But we saw Brandon Royval reverse position twice and nearly submit Tyra, and I know Tyra has improved since then, but I just don't see Tyra getting dominant position against Pantoja. Even when he takes him down, I don't think he's going to be able to do much to him, and I think Pantoja will be able to get back to his feet. And I think on the feet, both guys have improved, but Pantoja has a granite chin and has power, where I feel like Tyra isn't really going to knock out Pantoja, but I could see Pantoja hurting Tyra on the feet, maybe taking him down from there. So I feel like the only path to victory for Tyra is like a close 48-47 decision. But even if that happens and he did get a close decision, he'd have to win at least one of the later rounds, and I just don't see that happening because he's probably going to be the one shooting takedowns. He's going to get tired. He got a little bit tired in that Royval fight, and I know Pantoja also gets tired, but I feel like his pacing, he's fought many 5-round fights. I trust him more in 5-round fights, so I am going to go with Pantoja. I do think he ends up beating Tyra or Van or whoever he fights, and I think that he's going to be the champion at the end of the year for Flyweight. Next up, 135. I think that it is going to be Yan versus Merab, the immediate rematch. I don't think Sean or Umar is going to skip the line. I think partially it's not because the UFC loves Merab or they're trying to do him a favor, but Merab, he doesn't take any time off. He'll probably fight in May or June, something like that, and the rematch will happen. And I think in the trilogy, I think Yan beats him again. I just don't see what Merab can do to beat Yan. I know that it was a little bit of a closer fight than people are acting like. The first round, I thought Merab won, and up until the last 10 seconds or so in the third when he got hit with the body shot, I thought Merab was actually winning the third round. So I think he had a solid performance. It's just Peter Yan was so good that night. And I think the last fight of the year in Bantamweight is going to be Umar versus Yan in Abu Dhabi in October. And I think this one will actually be more competitive than Merab versus Yan. I think Umar actually is a better grappler and better striker than Merab. I know he lost to him, but I feel like that's just because of the gas tank and just because of the pace that Merab fights at. Umar wasn't able to keep up. But skill-wise, I do think he's better than Merab. And Yan doesn't always fight at a crazy pace. He starts slow. So I think that's actually going to help Umar with his gas tank. And Umar had somewhat of a similar performance that Yan did in the first 3 rounds. It was 2-1 going into the last 2. The only difference is Umar didn't target the body like Yan did. So he couldn't do the damage and get Merab off of him. And because of that, he lost the fight. And he also broke his arm in that fight, which we know Yan broke his arm, I believe his right hand, in the first fight, and we saw what a difference that made. And I don't expect Yan to come out pressure heavy like he did against Merab in the rematch because Umar doesn't fight at that pace. So I still think he's going to give up the first round or two. I think it's all going to come down to the third round. Does Umar have enough in him to win the third? And I actually do. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think Umar can beat Yan, and I think he's going to become the Bantamweight champion at the end of the year. Next, we have 145. Now, I expect the winner of Lopez and Volk to only fight one more time. I know that Volk says he wants to be active, but he said this last year and he only fought one time despite wanting to fight 3 times. I just think he's getting up there in age. He's about 37. I don't think that he could handle that many more training camps, so I only expect him to defend one more time if he wins. And if he beats Lopez, I expect him to fight Lerone Murphy, because Evelev, I feel like Lerone is more likely to take another fight in between than Evelev. Maybe they do Lerone versus Aljo, he's able to win, and then they make Lerone versus Volk. And it's tough to pick Volk because he's getting up there in age, and eventually he's going to look completely washed. But I do think Volk is the champion at 145 by the end of the year. I think he beats Lopez, and even if he loses, they'll probably just do a trilogy. And Lerone is a tough challenge. He can make it competitive, but I do think Volk wins that fight. So I'm going to go with Volk being the featherweight champion at the end of the year. 155, I believe Ilia Topuria should be the champion by the end of the year. It is tough because he's super inactive. He's one of the most inactive champions. He fights about once a year. It sucks because a lot of these guys like Ilia, Khamzat Chimaev, Islam Makhachev, the top 3 in the pound for pound, and arguably the 3 biggest superstars in the UFC. What hurts them so much is that they're just not active. You know, Conor McGregor, when he was in his prime, what made him so special is he was constantly fighting. These guys, they fight once a year, and it really does kill their hype. And obviously now he has the court case, so I really don't know when he's going to return, if he even does return this year. I'm hoping that he doesn't get stripped or he vacates the belt. But assuming he fights, I think he's only going to fight one time in this year, and it's 100% going to be against Pimlet or Gaethje. And I don't think that that's a close fight. So I'm going to go with Ilia Topuria. The only way he's not the champion is if he gets stripped. I'm going to hope that he doesn't get stripped. I know Paddy and Gaethje, they're not that active either. They fight once a year. So I feel like the UFC, even if they become champion, they just would wait it out, even if it's until November or December. Next up, 170. I believe Islam Makhachev should be the champion at the end of the year. Unfortunately, I do think that they're going to go with Kamaru Usman being the next contender, which is just ridiculous. Islam is easily going to beat him. Usman, he's just not going to take down Islam over and over again. And on the feet, Makhachev is so much better. We saw Buckley piecing up Usman in the 5th round. Usman just is not the striker as Islam Makhachev. So I do think Islam wins that. And he may only fight one more time, if that. And if he does, I think it will be against someone like an Ian Gary, who I think he beats. I think he beats Morales, Prates, pretty much everyone in that division. So I do think Islam Makhachev will be the champ by the end of the year. Next up, 185. I'm going to go with Khamzat Chimaev. I feel like this is pretty easy. Unless he vacates the belt and moves up, I think that he's going to fight Amavov, and he should win that fight. And let's be honest, he's only going to fight one time this year. This is probably the easiest division to call. Again, it's a shame because he has so much hype. He's a massive superstar, but he just doesn't fight. I know that he said he'll be ready by May or something, but because so many different countries the UFC goes to, they're not going to do Khamzat in like Australia or even a city like New Jersey in the US. So I feel like they're going to wait until sometime like in Abu Dhabi for it to make sense. So I think Khamzat Chimaev is going to only defend once, and I still think he's going to be the champion. Next up, 205. This is where it gets a little bit interesting because Alex Pereira, he's been hinting that he wants to go up. They did say the John Jones fight is not happening, thankfully. So if Alex Pereira moves up, it would have to be probably for the interim title. If Aspinall isn't recovered, I could see the UFC doing that, where Aspinall, his eye isn't ready, and they just make Gane versus Alex Pereira. And if he stays down at 205, I think it's going to be Olberg versus Alex, which I do think Alex wins. I don't think he's going to be as active as he used to be. He's not going to fight like 4 times a year, 3 times a year. I think he'll fight maybe twice this year. I could see the first fight being against Olberg, and I do think that he wins that, and I think he'll probably fight the winner of Aspinall versus Gane. But with that being said, I feel like there's a chance that if he does move up, he's going to vacate the belt. He doesn't want to do the weight cut because the UFC, they don't want double champions anymore. So if that's the case, I could see it being like a Yuri versus Olberg or something like that if he moves up right away. And I think Yuri would actually beat Olberg. I think Yuri beats everyone else in the division outside of Alex Pereira. So there's a real chance that Yuri is the champion by the end of the year. And this may seem like a crazy pick, but I actually am going to pick Yuri to be the champion at 205 by the end of the year. I think that Pereira is going to move up, vacate the belt, and I think it's going to be Yuri versus Olberg or Yuri versus someone else, and I think that he's going to win that fight. Next up, heavyweight. Same issue as the last division. We don't know what Alex Pereira is going to do. Honestly, I think Alex would beat Gane, Tom Aspinall. I think he would beat everyone at heavyweight. We just don't know if he's moving up. I think in the meantime, they are going to do Gane versus Aspinall, the rematch, probably like in the summer. And that's a tough fight to call, but I would lean Tom Aspinall. I don't know if he's going to defend his belt after that. I think he beats pretty much everyone else. I think he beats Waldo. I think he beats Almeida, Volkov. So I think he really just has to get through Ciryl Gane and recover. And there is a chance that Alex Pereira, when he returns, is the interim champion at heavyweight, and they set up that fight. Yeah, these are all my predictions for the champions at the end of the year. For WMMA, I have Zhang Weili. I think she beats Mackenzie Dern. I think she goes back down. I think Shevchenko stays at 125, the champion. And I actually think that the 135 division is just going to be done. I feel like they're going to do the rematch after Nunes and Harrison. I think the winner of that is going to be Nunes. That may be a hot take, but I actually think Nunes beats Harrison. So yeah, let me know which one of these you disagree with, what you think.